Good evening, students. Welcome to Sankalp learning classes. I hope all are ready to listen the class. Today we are discussing the synopsis on the chapter Human Reproduction. We are discussing the synopsis as well as some questions related to the human reproduction chapter. So just you have to recall what you studied in the human reproduction chapter. Yes, dear students, let us start the chapter. In the first chapter, we learned about the sexual reproduction in the flowering plants. So mainly we studied about the plants and also we solved some questions related to the first chapter. Today we are discussing the second chapter. Okay, so let us start the chapter. So you know that humans are sexually reproducing and viviparous organisms, and the reproductive events that include the certain steps, that is gametogenesis, insemination, fertilization, implantation, gestation, and the parturition. So what is this gametogenesis, insemination, fertilization? So these all steps will learn in the next part of this chapter. Okay, so I'm not going to explain these all terminologies. We are studying in the next part. Here, first we are studying about the male reproductive system. Male reproductive system located in the pelvis region of the male body, and it includes the pair of testes, accessory ducts, accessory glands, and external genitalia. Here, the male reproductive system, so mainly it includes the testes, right? So pair of testes. So these are the, so this structure that represents the testes, pair of testes that is present inside the structure that is called as the scrotum. So this scrotum that maintains the low temperature of the body. So low temperature then, so around 2 to 2.5 degrees Celsius lower than the normal body. So that is necessary for the spermatogenesis. Spermatogenesis means it is the process of formation of the sperms in the testes. Here in adults, each testis is oval in shape with length 4 to 5 centimeter and the width 2 to 3 centimeter. And inside the testis, you find 250 compartments called testicular lobules. So each testis has around 250 compartments called testicular lobules. So testicular lobules, it contain 2 to 3 seminiferous tubule. So here mainly testis contain the around 250 compartments that is called as testicular lobules. Each testicular lobule that contain the seminiferous tubule, 2 to 3 seminiferous tubules. So what is this seminiferous tubule? So here each seminiferous tubule that is lined with its two types of these cell, that is male germ cell, that is spermatogonial cell, and the Sertoli cells. So this is the structure of the seminiferous tubule. Here you can find the cells that is called as seminiferous tubules. So these cells are called as spermatogonial cells. So these cells are called as the spermatogonial cells, and here some Sertoli cells also present inside the seminiferous tubule. Then what is the function? The male germ cells, that is the spermatogonia, which undergo the meiotic divisions and which lead to the formation of the sperm. Spermatogonial cells, which undergo that is diploid in condition, that undergo the meiosis and form the mainly which forms the sperms. Sertoli cells provide the nutrition to the germ cells. So the Sertoli cells are present here. The sperms are produced by the male germ cells, and the Sertoli cells, they are producing the nutrition for that. And one more type, very important type of the cells, that is called as interstitial cells. So that is present in between the adjacent seminiferous tubule. So adjacent this seminiferous tubule, so that is called as interstitial cell or Leydig cell. So this cell which represent the interstitial or the Leydig cells. So the regions outside the interstitial space contains small blood vessels and interstitial cells called Leydig cells, which form the hormones, which secrete the hormone that is called as the androgens. The hormone secreted by Leydig cells, that is called as the androgen. So here, what is the function of the spermatogonia and Sertoli cells and the Leydig cells, that you have to remember. Then, so this is the diagrammatic structure of the male reproductive system. So here you can find the accessory ducts. Accessory ducts that includes the retitestis. So here you can find the retitestis and vasa differentia and epididymis and the vas deferens. So that is the, so these are the structures that forms the male accessory ducts. The seminiferous tubules of the testis open into vasa differentia through the retitestis. So seminiferous tubules opens into the structure that is called as retitestis, and all the retitestis, so the retitestis that open into the structure that is called as vasa differentia. Then vasa differentia leave the testis and open into the epididymis located into the posterior surface of each testis. So here all are the ducts, accessory ducts which carry the sperms. Seminiferous tubules, inside the seminiferous tubules, sperms are produced. Then it is open into the vas differentia through the retitestis, and retitestis that open into the structure that is epididymis located vasa differentia. Vasa differentia that opens into the structure that is called as the uh, epididymis, right? The epididymis leads to the vas deferens that seconds that ascends to the abdomen and loops over the urinary bladder. So this is the long one that is called as the vas deferens. Here epididymis that opens into the vas deferens, then which form the loop around the uterus, and the epididymis leads to the vas deferens and ascends to the abdomen and loops over the urinary bladder. It receives a duct from seminal vesicles and opens into the urethra as the ejaculatory duct. So here it opens into here. So it receives the secretion from the, so the seminal vesicles, prostate gland and bulbourethral gland. So then it open into the structure that is called as the urethra. So that is the common passage used for the urine and the sperm. That is the, then these ducts store and transport the sperm from the testis to the outside through the urethra. Then male accessory glands, here seminal vesicles, prostate and paired bulbourethral gland. Here paired seminal vesicles and but prostate gland, that is the unpaired or the single. Okay, but paired bulbourethral gland is present. Very important here. The secretion of these glands constitutes seminal plasma, which is rich in fructose and certain calcium and certain enzymes. Very important. The secretions of bulbourethral glands also helps the lubrication of the penis. Then external genitalia, that is the penis. Here the penis is the male external genitalia. So it is made up of special tissue that helps the erection of the penis and facilitate the insemination. And it is also how the enlarged end that you can see in the diagram. So that is called as glans penis, and also covered by loose fold of skin that is called as the foreskin. So that is the male external genitalia, so that you can see in the diagram. So this is called as this is the foreskin, and the enlarged one that is called as the glans penis. So this is about the male reproductive system and the female reproductive system. So what it includes: pair of ovaries, oviduct, uterus, cervix, vagina, and the external genitalia. So mammary glands also comes under the female reproductive system, but there is no functional connection between the female reproductive system. But it also helps in the process of ovulation, fertilization, pregnancy, birth, and the child care. So it helps in the process of these all process, but there is no connection between the female reproductive system and the mammary gland. Here ovaries, so these are the pair of ovaries. These are the primary female sex organs, produces the female gamete, that is the ovum. Here each ovary is covered by thin epithelium which encloses the ovarian stroma. The stroma is divided into two zones, that is peripheral cortex and inner medulla. So here this is the ovary, the peripheral that is called as the cortex, and central that is the ovary. Sorry, central that is the medulla. So that is the two part of the ovary. Here, accessory duct. So, accessory duct of the female reproductive system, that is the oviduct, that is the fallopian tube. Uterus and vagina constitute the female accessory duct. So, here the part closer to the ovary, the funnel shaped structure that is called as infundibulum. So, here you can find the structure of infundibulum, which is the funnel shaped structure, and the wider part of the fallopian tube, that is the ampulla, and the part that is the narrow part, that is the isthmus. And you can find the finger like projections, so in the infundibulum, that is called as fimbriae, which collect the ovum released by the ovary. Then the last part of the oviduct, that is the isthmus, that is having the narrow lumen and joins the uterus. So then uterus or womb. Mainly, very important thing that you should learn, the wall of the uterus has three layer of tissues: perimetrium, myometrium, endometrium. So the layer of the tissue of the uterus, so perimetrium, that is the external membrane, myometrium, that is the internal one, and the endometrium, that is the innermost layer. So endometrium that undergoes the cyclical changes during the menstrual cycle. So that is very important about the uterus. Then external genitalia. So here female external genitalia include mons pubis. So this is the mons pubis, that is the cushion like fat structure. Labia majora. So that is the folded structure present inside the, so here this is the labia majora and the labia minora, and hymen and the clitoris. Clitoris is the some finger like projections, and hymen, so that is the layer that covers the vagina. Here mons pubis is a cushion or fatty tissue covered by skin and pubic hair. labia majora, that is the fleshy fold of tissue which extended down from mons pubis and surrounded the vaginal opening. So that is present around the vaginal opening, and labia minora are paired folds of tissue under labia majora. Then the hymen, so that is the layer partially covers the uh, membrane. That vagina is covered by a membrane that is called as the hymen. Then here, the last one, clitoris. Clitoris is the tiny finger-like structure which lies at the upper junction of the two labia minora and urethral opening. So here you can see the structure where it is present. Here it is present near the two labia minora and the vaginal opening. So this is the female external genitalia, and very important, mammary gland. So mammary glands are the paired structure. Mammary gland is also paired in our body and which contain the glandular tissue and the variable amount of the fat. Glandular tissue and variable amount of fat. Here, mainly the glandular tissue is each breast divided into mammary lobes. Here you can see the mammary lobes called alveoli. Then these alveoli secrete milk which is stored in the cavities of the alveoli. Then the alveoli open into mammary tubules. So here the alveoli that opens into the mammary tubules, and each lobe joint form the mammary duct. Then several mammary ducts join to form a wider mammary ampulla. So here you can see the mammary ampulla, and which is connected to the lactiferous duct through which milk is sucked out. So here mammary lobes. So here you can see the mammary tubules. Then mammary duct, you can see here mammary ducts, and that opens into the ampulla, and last one lactiferous tubules. Then gametogenesis. So this is about what we studied, that is about the structure of male and female reproductive structures. But how the gametes are produced? So it is the process of formation of the gametes from the diploid cell. So that is called as the gametogenesis. So here it takes place in the primary sex organ like in the testes or in the ovary. Here first we are studying about the spermatogenesis. It is the process of formation of the haploid sperm. See here, haploid sperms are formed by the process spermatogenesis. The first phase that is called as multiplication phase. So here the spermatogonial cells, so at the puberty the spermatogonial cell which undergo the mitosis and they undergo the differentiation and form the primary spermatocytes. So remember the primary spermatocytes, that is 2n in condition, means which has the 46 chromosome. So this primary spermatocyte which undergo the first meiotic division. So first meiotic division means which forms the two cells, right? Which undergo the first meiotic division and form the primary secondary spermatocytes. So these secondary spermatocytes are haploid in number, haploid in ploidy, and which undergo the second meiotic division and form the spermatids. Spermatids are formed, they are round in shape and which undergo the differentiation and form the spermatozoa, that is nothing but the sperm. And later, second meiotic division, they produce four equal haploid spermatids, or it is also called as spermatozoa. So the multiplication phase, primary. So these are the primary spermatocytes which undergo the multiplication and form the secondary spermatocytes, and which undergo the which complete the second meiotic division and form the four spermatozoa, spermatids, like this. Okay, so this is the multiplication phase. So the first phase, multiplication phase, and growth phase. Spermatogonial cells grow with increasing cytoplasm and that will become primary spermatocytes. Primary spermatocytes means that is at the growth phase, and last one, maturation phase. Then spermiogenesis and the spermiation, very important. The spermatids are transformed into spermatozoa. Spermatids are there is round in shape and they transform into spermatozoa, means the sperms like this by a process called spermiogenesis. Very important. What is spermiogenesis? After spermiogenesis, sperm heads become embedded in the Sertoli cells and finally released from the seminiferous tubule. So that is called as the spermiation. It is the process of release. So that is the spermiation and the spermiogenesis. You should know the difference between the spermiogenesis and the spermiation. And what are all the hormones that are influencing the spermatogenesis? So this is the easy one. So by using this flow chart, you can learn the effect of the hormones on spermatogenesis easily. Gonadotrophin releasing hormone, that is the hypothalamic hormone, that is called as GnRH. So which stimulate the anterior pituitary. Which stimulate the anterior pituitary to release the gonadotropins. The pituitary release the gonadotropins, that is the LH, luteinizing hormone, and the FSH. Okay. So this LH act on the Leydig cells to release the androgens, and FSH that act on the Sertoli cells. Okay. So which act on the Sertoli cells. Here, Leydig cells that stimulate the process of spermatogenesis, androgens that helps in the process of spermatogenesis, the formation of this sperms, and the Sertoli cells that secretion of factors for the spermiogenesis. Sertoli cells that helps to release of the sperms, so that is embedded in the seminiferous tubule. So that act on the Sertoli cells. So very, if you want, you can note down. So from this flowchart, you can learn the effect of hormones very easily. Next question, next one. Structure of the sperm. So very important one. Sperm mainly it contains the three main regions: head, neck, and so this is the middle piece and the tail region. So here you can see the head region, so where the acrosome is present, right? So and also nucleus. So this acrosome that contains some hydrolytic enzymes that helps to penetrate the egg. Okay. And here middle piece, it possesses some mitochondria that helps to the movement, that provides the energy for the movement of the cell, and this is the tail region which help for the movement of the sperm. So very important one, the structure of the sperm, the function of the acrosome, and the function of the mitochondria. So then ovary. Each ovary is covered by thin epithelium which encloses the ovarian stroma. So here you can find the two regions, that is the cortex region and in the medulla region. Cortex region, that is the outermost one, peripheral region, and inner one, that is the medulla region. Here, oogenesis. So the oogenesis that takes place in the ovary, right? So oogenesis, remember, that is initiated during the embryonic development. So when the female baby that is in the uh, mother's womb, so at that time only the oogenesis is initiated. So within the, so the oogonial cells are formed just before the birth of the baby. No more oogonia is added after the birth. So here in the ovary, the oogonia cells start division and enter into the prophase 1 of the meiotic division and get temporarily arrested at the stage called primary oocyte. So here the oogonial cell which undergo the multiplication before the birth, then which start the multiplication and that start the cell division and halt at the prophase 1. So prophase 1 of the meiosis, which is not able to complete the first meiotic division. Each primary oocyte then gets surrounded by the granulosa cells and it is called as the primary follicles. So here the oocyte, so that is halted at the, which is arrested at the meiotic cell division. The granulosa cells that is start to form around these cells, that is called as the primary follicles, and a large number of these follicles degenerate during the phase of birth to the puberty. So only 60 to 80,000 primary follicles are left in each ovary. So only few follicles are remained in the ovary during this birth to the puberty. Many the follicles they degenerate. Then the primary follicles get surrounded by more layer of cells, that is called as the granulosa cells. Primary follicles they surrounded by more layer of cells, that is called as the secondary follicles. Then it turn into the tertiary follicles. Here this is the primary follicle and the secondary follicles that you can see, and can see the characteristic transform in the tertiary follicle, that is fluid filled cavity, that is called as the antrum. The theca layer is organized into an inner theca and interna and outer theca externa. So the inner layer, the theca layer is organized, the inner one that is the theca interna and outer one theca externa, and the primary oocyte, so which is arrested at the meiotic one. So within the tertiary follicles grows in size and completes the first meiotic division. So which complete the first meiotic division and form the secondary oocyte. Secondary oocyte retains the bulk of the nutrient rich in cytoplasm of the oocyte, and the tertiary follicle further changes into mature Graafian follicle. So here the tertiary follicle which contain the, so the tertiary follicle that develop into the Graafian follicle which contain the secondary oocyte. So when the Graafian follicle matures, the secondary oocyte that is released from the ovary. But the secondary oocyte forms the new membrane called zona pellucida surrounding it. So the zona pellucida layer that is present around the secondary oocyte. The Graafian follicle ruptures and releases the secondary oocyte, and that is the process of ovulation. But the secondary oocyte, when it completes the second meiotic division, so that is during the fertilization, when the sperm penetrates the ovum, the second ovum means secondary oocyte that completes the cell division and forms the ovum. So that takes place in the fallopian tube. Okay, so this is the schematic representation. So fetal life, during the fetal life, these primary oocytes are formed, and this primary oocyte that start the cell division but arrested at the meiotic 1 phase. So here the granulosa cells are start to form around the this around this primary oocyte, and primary oocyte, when it completes the first meiotic division, so that is during the puberty, till puberty, that remains in this stage, so that will become secondary follicle and the tertiary follicle, and it completes the cell division and form the secondary oocyte, and secondary oocyte is released from the mature Graafian follicle. Okay, so this is released, and the ovum that forms during the fertilization in the fallopian tube. Here the meiotic division, that is not the equal two cells are not formed, so the polar body, so there is no equal distribution of the cytoplasm takes place. So one is the larger one, that is called as secondary oocyte, and the smaller one, that is the first polar body, and it also produces the second polar body. So that is the non-functional. Only ovum is, or the secondary oocyte, that is functional in the female reproductive structure. Okay, so that is about the oogenesis. Then very important thing, menstrual cycle. So menstrual cycle, that is the female primate, so the reproductive cycle of the female primates, where the ovum or the secondary oocyte is released in the middle of the cycle. So here very important thing is the phases of the menstrual cycle. The first term, that is the menstruation, where the menses, the flow of menses, that remains 3 to 5 days. Then follicular phase, ovulatory phase, and the luteal phase. So in the first phase, there is a flow of menses takes place 3 to 5 days. During the follicular phase, so the primary follicles in the ovary grow and become mature Graafian follicle. The primary follicles that are halted, that is halted in the first meiotic division, right? So uh, they'll start growing and become mature Graafian follicle, and uh, the endometrium of the uterus generates through the proliferation. These changes in the ovary and uterus that induce the changes by levels of pituitary and the ovarian hormone. So the secretion of LH and FSH increases gradually due to the changes in the ovary and the uterus. So then ovulatory phase, the LH and FSH that start secreting, but that is very high during the 14th day, which cause the rupture of the Graafian follicle and form the release of the secondary oocyte. So that is the ovulatory phase. And the luteal phase, the remaining of, here you can see the remaining of this ruptured Graafian follicle that develops into a corpus luteum, and this corpus luteum that releases the hormone that is called as the progesterone. Corpus luteum that releases the hormone that is called as the progesterone, and this progesterone that helps to the maintenance of the endometrium. So when the so that is called as the pregnancy hormone that helps that maintains the endometrium, helps to attach the fertilized zygote to the uterus. If there is no fertilization, there is no the endometrium that degenerate, right? So the corpus, there, if there is no uh, fertilization, the in case of that, the corpus luteum degenerates and the endometrium lining shed again, so that mark the beginning of the new cycle. Here very important, the hormones in the luteal phase and also during the ovulatory phase, LH and the FSH, so that is very important. Then fertilization and implantation. So the fertilization takes place in the ampullary region. So that is the region where the uh, ovum is also transported to the ampullary region, and sperms also release the ampullary region. And so this is the ovum. During the fertilization, sperm comes in contact with the zona pellucida layer and ovum induces the changes and block the entry of additional sperms. So the only one sperm, so that is enabled to fertilize with the ovum. So that is very important, and which forms the zona pellucida layer and corona radiata layer. Okay, then the sex determination that you know. So the XXXY type of the sex determination in human beings. Female produces the egg that contain always X chromosome. Male sperm always contain either X or Y. So the males or the fathers are responsible for the determination of the sex of the baby. So this I'll not explain in detail, so that you learned in your, I hope you learned this topic. Fertilization and the implantation. So after the fertilization, so the zygote that divide into two, that will become 2 cell stage, 4 cell stage, 8 and 16 daughter cells, that is called as the blastomeres. Blastomeres are formed. The embryo with 8 to 16 blastomeres is called as morula. So 8 to 16 blastomeres, that is called as the morula, and morula that divide and transform into blastocyst. So this is the morula stage, that is 18 to 16 blastomere stage, and morula that transfer into blastocyst. Here, what is this blastocyst? Here you can see the blastomeres of the blastocyst that arranged in the outer layer, that is the tropoblast, and here inner cell mass. So this inner cell mass that develop into embryo. So the characteristic arrangement of the cells that takes place in the blastocyst, and this blastocyst that is get attached to the endometrium, that is called as the implantation. So that is called as the implantation that leads to the pregnancy. So pregnancy and the embryonic development. So after the attachment of the blastocyst to the uterus, that is the endometrium of the uterus, so that is called as the pregnancy. So here after the implantation, finger like projections appear, that is called as the chronic villi, and this chronic villi and the uterine tissue, they interdigitated and form the structure, the structural and the functional unit, that is called as the placenta. So this is the placental villi. So here very important is the functions of placenta and the hormones released by the placenta. So you know that which transport the oxygen, nutrients, and also help the removal of the waste product, and mainly it acts as an endocrine tissue which produces the several hormones like human chorionic gonadotrophin, human placental lactogen, estrogen, and the progesterones. So these are the progestogens. So these are the hormones released by the placenta. Then in the later phase of pregnancy, hormone called relaxin is secreted by the ovary. So the hormone secreted by the ovary, that is during the later phase of the pregnancy, and relaxin are produced in women only during the pregnancy. This HCG, HPL, and the relaxin only during the pregnancy, not other time. And other hormones like estrogen, progesterogens, cortisol, prolactin, thyroxine also increased several folds in the maternal blood, so that also help for the growth of the fetus. Then the development of the embryo, very important one. Here the pregnancy lasts for the 9 months, that is divided into 3 trimester. Here, by the end of the 12 weeks, that is first trimester, most of the major organ systems are formed. For example, limbs and the external genitalia organs developed. So that is the here. The first sign of the growing fetus may be noticed by listening to the heart sound carefully through the stethoscope. So that is just after 1 month of pregnancy. After 1 month of pregnancy, you can hear the sound of heart. So means heart is formed just within the 1 month. Then by the end of second month of pregnancy, the fetus develops the limbs and digits. So very important, limbs and digits that is developed by the end of the second month. Then the first movement of the fetus and appearance of the hair on head are usually observed during the fifth month. By the end of the 24-week, that is end of the second trimester, so body is covered by fine hair, eyelids separate and eyelashes are formed. So this is also very important. In which month what are the different organs developed? By the end of the 9 months, pregnancy of the fetus is pregnancy, the fetus is fully developed and ready to delivery. Then the last one, the parturition, that is nothing but the delivery of the baby. The average duration of human pregnancy, that is about 9 months, that is called as the gestation period. And vigorous contraction of the uterus at the end of the pregnancy causes the expulsion of the baby. So here the parturition is complex neuroendocrine mechanism. Because why it is called as the neuroendocrine mechanism? The fully developed fetus and the placenta which induce the mild uterine contraction, that is called as the fetal ejection reflex. This triggers release the oxytocin from the maternal pituitary. So that triggers the oxytocin. So this oxytocin that causes the contraction of the uterus and which leads to the expulsion of the baby. The more and more contraction of the uterus, that leads to the more and more release of the oxytocin. So that leads to the expulsion of the baby from the uterus. So that is called as the parturition. And here very important is about the lactation. So the mammary glands that undergo the differentiation during the pregnancy and the milk produced during the initial days of the lactation is called as the colostrum. So what is this colostrum? That is the milk produced by the mother during the initial few days of the lactation. And very important, it contains the antibodies that helps the baby to fight against the diseases. So that is very important thing. So which contain the antibodies, that is IgA type of the antibodies are present in the colostrum. Yes, this is about uh, the short explanation about the human reproduction. I hope just you recall all the points related to the human reproduction chapter. So next we have to discuss the some important questions from this chapters, the multiple choice question from this chapter. I hope all are ready to solve the questions. Please comment the answer options in your chat box so that I can discuss the some important questions with you. Yes, this is the first question. Where is the male reproductive system located? Where is the male reproductive system located? Option A, pectoral region, pelvis region, abdominal region, and the lumbar region. Yes, where it is located? Just you write the answer in chat box. So it is located, the male reproductive system that is located pelvis region. It is located pelvis region of the human body. Next question. Where are the sperms produced? Option A, prostate gland. Option B, epidermis. Option C, vas deferens and the seminiferous tubules. Where are the sperms produced? Prostate gland, that is the gland that is also included in the male reproductive system, but is option D, seminiferous tubule. The sperms are produced inside the seminiferous tubule. Yes, that is the correct one. The seminiferous tubules of the testes are lined by the germinal epithelium consisting of spermatids, cells of Sertoli cells, spermatogonium, spermatocytes. What's the correct option? Option B. Option seminiferous tubules of the testes are lined by the germinal epithelium consisting of here. So seminiferous tubules, mainly they contain the spermatogonium, the germinal epithelium consisting of the spermatogonium cells. So these are the germ cells, male germ cells. Option C, that is the spermatogonium. Next question. Leydig cells are located within the seminiferous tubules, in the space between the adjacent seminiferous tubules, in the wall of the epididymis, within the seminal vesicles. Yes, what's the correct option? Option B. Leydig cells. So the Leydig cells which secrete the androgens, that is within the seminiferous tubule, no, they are not present in the seminiferous tubules. In the wall of the epididymis, no. In the seminal vesicles, there are no cells are located in, no, these Leydig cells are located in the seminal vesicles. So option B, that is the correct one, in the space between the adjacent seminiferous tubules. So that is the correct option. Option B is the correct one. Next question. These cells of the testis secrete the testosterone. Sertoli cells, cells of the germinal epithelium, cells of Leydig or interstitial cells, secondary spermatocytes. Yes, testosterone that is secreted by testosterone is secreted by which of the following? So here the testosterone hormone that is secreted by the Leydig cells, right? So that we learned. So testosterone hormone that is secreted by the Leydig cells or interstitial cells. Next question. Secretions of which contribute the maximum volume of the semen. So you know that semen which contain the sperms as well as secretions from the bulbourethral gland, seminal vesicles and the prostate gland. Mainly from this gland some secretion also added to the sperms that constitute the semen. So mainly which of the following gland that contribute more maximum volume to this gland, to this semen volume? Is it bulbourethral, seminal vesicles, prostate, epididymis? The correct option, that is the seminal vesicles. Option B is the correct one, that is the seminal vesicles. Next one. Seminiferous tubules contain non-germinal cells called as Sertoli cells, interstitial cells, Leydig cells, none of these. So non-germinal cells are called here the seminiferous tubule, inside the seminiferous tubule, not in between the adjacent seminiferous tubule. So inside the seminiferous tubule, non-germinal cells means that is Sertoli cells. Interstitial cells that are not present inside the seminiferous tubules. So they are present in between the two adjacent seminiferous tubules. So that is interstitial and the Leydig cells. The correct option, that is the Leydig cells. Option A is the correct one. Sorry, option A, that is the Sertoli cells are the correct option. Which of the following is not a function of Sertoli cells? To phagocytize the excess spermatid cytoplasm as a development proceeds, to control the movement of spermatogenic cells and the release of the sperm into lumen of the seminiferous tubule, to produce fluid for sperm transport and secrete the hormone inhibin, to regulate the effects of LH. Yes, here, which of the following is not a function of the Sertoli cell? Here, option B, to control the movement of spermatogenic cells and the release of the sperm into the lumen. So, this is not a function of the Sertoli cells. Option B. Then, which of the following male accessory gland is not paired? So, which is unpaired? Let's comment the correct option. Here, seminal vesicle that is paired. Okay, seminal gland, seminal vesicle that is paired. Here, prostate gland, so that is unpaired. Okay, so option B, yes, option B is the correct one. The seminal vesicle that is paired, bulbourethral gland is also paired, but prostate gland that is unpaired. Which is the shared terminal duct of the reproductive and urinary systems in the male. So that is the common passage for the sperms and the urine, epididymis, ductus deferens, urethra, ejaculatory duct. Yes, what's the correct answer? The correct answer, that is the urethra. Urethra acts as the common passage for the sperm and the urine. Option C is the correct answer. Okay. Yes, dear students, I hope this session is useful to prepare the exam, competitive exams for you people. Yes, if you have any doubts, you comment in the chat box. Thank you. We'll continue in the next class.